story told about a man named Robert Robinson riding on a stagecoach many years ago. On the stagecoach is a young lady, and she is happy. She's singing the hymn, "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing." And she looks over to Robert Robinson, who she does not know, and she says, "What do you think about the song I'm singing?" Now she's witnessing, which we're going to talk about later at 2 o'clock. But he gives her a strange answer. He knits his brow. He's an old man at this point. He says, "Young lady, I am that poor wretched soul that wrote that song many years ago. And I would give many worlds if I had it to have the feeling I had then, the feeling you have now." You see, my friends, Robert Robinson was saved at 19, joined the Methodist Church, and when he became a pastor of the Methodist Church, he wrote that song, "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing." We have been blessed by those words so often. But Robert Robinson's story is different. He wandered away from the Methodist Church and joined the Baptist Church. And after a while there, he wandered away from the Baptist Church and joined the Unitarian Church. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Unitarians do not believe in the deity of Jesus Christ. Robert Robinson had been saved at 19, and over a course of ministry to God, walked away from him. Walked away from the belief that the one person who could save him was not God. Robert Robinson knew very well about the decay of spiritual life that would lead to you walking away and wandering away from God. And he died outside of Jesus Christ. He died a wayward and miserable soul outside of Christ. Here is the third verse of this beautiful song. I love the words. "Oh, to grace, how great a debtor daily I'm constrained to be. Let thy goodness, like a fetter, bind my wandering heart to thee. Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it. Prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, Lord. Take and seal it. Seal it for thy courts above." Robert's story is an unfortunate one, but his slippery slope is not unique. The unfortunate thing is that for many of us, we too have become very practiced at walking away from God. We take the things that we want and we leave. Somehow we find it necessary to leave the boundaries of his care, to leave the boundaries of his provision, and say, "You know what? I'm going to go on my own. I don't need you. I can make it all by myself." How foolish. How foolish to think that you will be able to survive without the one who gives you life to live in the first place. How foolish to walk away from the one that gives you the strength to make it. But we do it nonetheless. And we do it for many different reasons. Our backgrounds are different, or circumstances are different, or needs are different, or inclinations are different. And so it's at different phases of our spiritual journey that we drop off or we walk away. Some of us walk further than others, but we walk away nonetheless. Essentially, we pack up and leave home. We leave God. We leave Him emotionally, we leave Him spiritually, and we leave Him mentally. We take what we want from Him and we leave. It's not what's best for us, but we do it nonetheless. It's not what He's planned, but we do it anyway. It's not what He's provided for us, but we do it anyway. But yet, here we are, on another Sabbath day, as different as we've been throughout the whole week, As much as we've walked away from him, here we are seeking his refuge, seeking his face. The wonderful news I have for you today is that you can go back home. No matter where you've been, no matter what you've done, his arms are wide open and you can go back home. After a period of wandering for some of us, as we've walked away from him, that period sometimes is a state of confusion for some of us. For some of us, it's a period of anxiety, unsure about what the future holds. For some of us, it's been a period of depression because we aren't where we're supposed to be. But whether it's just this past week that you've been dealing with that difficulty, or if it's been last month, or if it was all of last year, it doesn't matter what it was or how long or where you were. You, my friends, can go back home to God, to that place that he's provided for you. And I'm not talking about this church. It's good that you've come to church today. It's good. But what I'm talking about is the relationship that you have with God. Because many will go to church and be in the presence of God, but be extremely far away from him. And so it's not the physical church that we're talking about. In the book of Psalms, chapter 91, verse 1, David writes something about this relationship. He says, "He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." That is the home that we're talking about today. That loving embrace, that place you can go back home to without a problem. Now, as we contemplate the idea of going back home, we're going to take a look at a well-known story. It is a story of love. It is a story of greed. It is a story of hunger. It is a story of loyalty. It's a story of compassion. It's a story of relationships at the highest level, about access, forgiveness, redemption. It's a story of the prodigal son. Now, there are many facets to this story. You have the love of the father, the immaturity of the younger son, the power of choice, the older son's commitment to stay with his father, the famine when you're far from home, spiritual hunger. You could preach on these various topics and principles for weeks, if not months. But as multifaceted as this story is, it's possible to view the story in just two halves: the departure and the return. Today, we're going to focus our attention on the return as we contemplate the idea of going back home. Take your Bibles with me, if you would, and turn to the book of Luke. We're looking at chapter 15. Luke chapter 15. While you're finding it, we won't read the whole thing. We know the story well. Man has two sons, the younger of which, in his immaturity, demands his inheritance. And his love, his father gives it to him. He takes off. He wastes it all. He finds himself without friends, without money, without food. And the point of the story that we'll join him today, we find him feeding the pigs and being envious of the food that the pigs themselves are eating. It's in the 15th chapter of Luke. It begins, the story does, at verse 11. It continues to the end of the chapter, verse 31, but we will be hopping around quite a bit this morning. Let's take a look